Matt, let's start off with what your expectations are. I mean, we know the numbers, but I mean, what do you actually want to hear this company articulate later tonight?
I mean, I want to see them beat and raise again, right? They seem to beat and raise every quarter. They're certainly this time around. You've got the setup. You've got all the hyperscalers having increased their Capex spend. That's what I want to see.
How resilient is that market share of Nvidia for that Capex spend? As we start to see Meta turn to an AMD, as we start to see them all looking at their own ASICs and their own purpose-built chips, how much can Nvidia in the longer term be still so dominant in the market?
So longer term is hard because things change 2, 3 years, 5 years out. I mean, we're talking about things like quantum now coming into being in 2030. And so it's always been hard to say what's going to happen 18 to 24 months away. Having said that, I think right now you don't have a choice. And in part, we've got some component shortages that don't look like they're being alleviated through 27. So whether it's the TSM with CoWoS or wafer supply, whether it's HBM DRAM, and certainly over the next 12 months, I think NVIDIA has done a better job than anyone else in terms of setting up procurement. And so even if I'm Google and Gemini's going great and I want to roll out more TPUs, it's just hard to support that because you can't get the material.
I am curious if you can kind of also just kind of talk about this idea of the Capex spend numbers that we did already hear from basically all the companies that we care about, and what we can extrapolate into the longer term growth. And by longer term, I mean really over the next year or so for NVIDIA.
Yeah, no, I think you heard, I want to say Amazon Capex looks to be up about 50%. Meta, I think is closer to 75%. And Google at the top end, I believe is closer to 100%. And they all said a greater proportion of that is going towards supporting data center servers and AI. And so, just roughly, if you're taking those three and calling it an average of 75%, I would expect their AI spend to grow at a rate that's north of that. And I would also expect that NVIDIA maintains share, again, in part because they've just done a better job setting up sourcing. So even if there's another technology out there, I think it's hard for them to get traction just because you're limited by how many wafer starts you can get, how much memory you can get.
I mean, Matt, there is so much to be buoyant about. We're expecting 68% growth in revenue, 72% growth in earnings per share, which is just extraordinary. And you do have an outperform rating, and you do think the stock is going to kick into a higher gear. What gets us there? Because we've been stagnant for months.
Yeah, so I would say, for me, this feels very reminiscent to what we were running into last year. I mean, the concerns were slightly different, right? Last year, early 25, people were talking about the fact that we didn't have a new model from OpenAI. We had DeepSeek coming out. They came out with their model. Was it going to just destroy demand for GPUs? And are we actually going to see inference take off? Now we've seen new models, right? They're all really good. Inference use cases really seem to be taking off. The concern had been, can we see a pickup in spend? And we've had all the hyperscalers tell us that, yeah, we're going to spend more. So I think a lot of the questions have been answered at this point, and that we see something similar to what we saw last year, where all of a sudden people realize that NVIDIA is only trading at close to 20 times what real earnings in the out year are going to be, and that it typically peaks at 30. And so I wouldn't be surprised if that happens again.
Is there going to be a China story to tell tonight, Matt?
I don't know. We see so many different headlines in terms of China's taking H200s, China's not taking H200s. I think today it hit the tape that the State Department hasn't approved any H200 sales, even though NVIDIA is allowed to ship H200s. That's, to me, one of the key questions in the sense that unlocks some more revenue. But then that also gets into the supply chain problem again, in that I think that unexpected demand is going to be hard to meet, just because now you have to go get wafer starts, you have to go get memory. Certainly, Nvidia has some inventory they weren't able to ship previously, but shipping beyond that is probably going to be difficult.